The morning sun filtered through the kitchen curtains, softly illuminating the space with a warm glow. Alicia was in the kitchen of her home in a big city. Her grey hair was pulled back in a loose bun, and her trembling hands held a cup of coffee. The house, once filled with laughter and life, now felt empty and cold. Memories of years past, when her children were young and needed her care, flooded her mind. Marco, it's been a long time since I've been to the market," Alicia said in a soft voice, thick with emotion. "I'd like to buy some fresh vegetables. Could one of you accompany me? I don't feel safe going alone." Mario, without looking up from his cell phone, replied impatiently, "Mom, I understand you want to go out, but today is really not a good day for me. I have a very important job interview. I need to prepare, review my resume, choose the right clothes. I can't go with you." Marco, from across the table, let out an exasperated sigh. "Mom, I'm also swamped with things to do. I work from home, but that doesn't mean I'm free. I have deadlines, online meetings. I can't just drop everything to go to the market. Besides, why don't you go alone this time? I see many elderly and independent ladies out and about." Alicia looked at her sons with sadness in her eyes. "You don't understand," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "Ever since I started having these problems with my spine, I'm afraid of falling in the street, of feeling sick away from home. Valentina, before going to Asia, always accompanied me and enjoyed being with me. Now I feel as if I were confined within these four walls, unable to count on my own children." Mario's gaze hardened at the mention of his adopted sister's name. "It's always about Valentina, isn't it? Valentina would do this, Valentina would do that," he mimicked his mother mockingly. "Mum, we have our own lives, our responsibilities. Valentina chose to go work in Asia. She clearly had other priorities. And another thing, Mum, don't forget that Valentina is only your adopted daughter. She doesn't even share our blood. It's us, Mario and Marco, your real children. And frankly, I'm tired of this constant comparison." Alicia felt a pang in her heart. "I'm not comparing anyone," she began, her voice choked with emotion. "On the contrary, I just wanted a little company, a little help. I spent my life taking care of you, dedicating every moment to ensuring you lacked nothing. And now, when I ask for a simple favor, I feel like I'm asking for the world." Tears began to form in the corners of her eyes, but she held them back with determination. "When you were little, I would drop everything to be with you. I took care of every fever, every scraped knee, every nightmare at night. And now, I'm a 73-year-old woman, and when I ask for a little time, a little consideration, it seems like I'm a burden." Marco rolled his eyes dismissively. "Mom, you're making a big deal out of everything. It's not fair that you expect us to drop everything whenever you ask. We have our own lives to live." Alicia looked at them, a mixture of indignation and sadness in her gaze. "I don't ask much of you. You live like kings here." She gestured around her, emphasizing the comfortable house they lived in. "You are grown men, and until today you haven't married. I, even receiving your father's pension after so many years as an army captain, never complained about supporting this house and leaving the money with you. The money is mine, the house is mine. And yet, when I make a simple request, I'm treated like I'm a big problem." Alicia's words were laden with the loneliness she felt. You don't understand how difficult it has been for me." Mario, losing his patience, interrupted her sharply. "Enough, Mom. Stop throwing those things in our faces. We are not Valentina. We are not going to be coddling you. We do what is within our reach. We are not obligated to listen to these lamentations, much less about that adopted girl who doesn't even have our blood." Alicia recoiled slightly, Mario's words hitting her like punches. The air in the kitchen was thick with tension, each immersed in their own conflicting thoughts and emotions. The conversation had transformed into a minefield of resentment and unresolved wounds. Alicia, her eyes still moist, realized that her words were not going to change anything. Her children had grown up. They had become men who valued their independence and their own lives above all else, even their relationship with their mother. As Mario and Marco prepared to leave the kitchen, Alicia remained silent, staring at the cup of coffee in her hands, feeling the weight of the years and loneliness gripping her heart. Alicia was left alone in the kitchen, the silence broken only by the distant hum of the city. Her thoughts were a jumble of memories and feelings, a mixture of nostalgia and pain. She stood up slowly, feeling the weight of each step as she made her way to the living room, where she sank into her favorite armchair, the same one that had witnessed so many afternoons of reading and conversation. A few hours later, while her sons were in their respective rooms, a conversation caught her attention. Mario and Marco were speaking in hushed tones, but the slightly ajar door allowed their words to reach Alicia. "We can't go on like this, Marco," Mario said in a tense whisper. "Mom is becoming more and more demanding, and we can't let her interfere with our lives." "I know," Marco replied with equal frustration. "But what do you suggest? We can't just ignore her." "We need a more permanent solution," Mario continued. "I've been doing some research. There are medications we can give her to make her sleep more. That way, she won't bother us as much." Alicia's heart skipped a beat. Her son's words echoed in her mind like a sentence. They were planning to drug her to keep her under control. Despair washed over her, but she forced herself to remain calm and continue listening. "That sounds risky," said Marco, hesitant. "What if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong if we're careful," Mario assured him. "And besides, I've found a nursing home where we could take her. We'll tell the staff she has Alzheimer's. That way, no one will suspect anything, and we can get on with our lives without interruptions." Alicia felt the ground open up beneath her. Her own sons, the ones she had dedicated her life to, were plotting to get rid of her. Sadness and fear overwhelmed her, but she knew she couldn't just stand idly by. She tried to get up to seek help, but her legs trembled under the weight of betrayal. She reached for the phone, hoping to contact Valentina, her adopted daughter who lived in Asia. She knew Valentina had always loved and protected her. But when she reached the phone, she discovered the cord had been disconnected. Her sons had anticipated that possibility. Desperate, Alicia tried to think of another way to communicate with the outside world, but all options seemed closed. Mario and Marco had taken steps to ensure she couldn't ask for help. The next day, while Mario and Marco were out, Alicia searched her belongings for something she could use to escape or at least alert someone to her situation. She found her old cell phone hidden in a drawer, but when she tried to turn it on, she realized the battery was dead and she didn't have the charger. That night, Mario and Marco returned home with a bag of groceries. Alicia watched them discreetly, noticing them take out a small box of medication and hide it in the pantry. The confirmation of her worst fears hit her like a wave of ice. She knew she had to act fast, but every attempt to plan an escape seemed futile. Finally, one afternoon, while Alicia was resting in her room, Mario and Marco approached her with forced smiles. "Mom, Mario said in a voice that tried to sound understanding. "We've been talking, and we think the best thing for you is to receive specialized care. There's a very good nursing home that could take better care of you than we can." Alicia felt a lump in her throat. "A nursing home?" she asked in a broken voice. "Are you planning on sending me away?" "It's for your own good, Mom," Marco interjected, trying to sound convincing. "They'll have doctors and nurses there who will know how to look after you. We'll visit you regularly." Alicia knew there was no way to convince them otherwise. Her sons had already made up their minds. In the following weeks, medication started appearing in her food and drink. Alicia noticed she felt more tired and drowsy than usual, but she tried not to consume too much to keep her mind clear. The day finally came. Mario and Marco took her to the nursing home under the pretense of a visit. Alicia, feeling weak from the effects of the medication, could barely resist. Upon arrival, the nursing home staff, previously informed by her sons of a supposed Alzheimer's condition, received her kindly, but with a professional distance that indicated they didn't expect much interaction from her. In the days that followed, Alicia experienced the true nature of the nursing home. The facilities were cold and impersonal, and the staff seemed more focused on routine than personal care. The other residents, many of them in worse condition than her, were a constant reminder of the hopelessness she now felt. Every attempt to contact anyone outside the nursing home was thwarted by the staff's strict supervision. Alicia realized that her sons had succeeded in completely isolating her. Her days were filled with loneliness and resignation, but deep inside, a spark of hope persisted. She knew Valentina would one day realize that something was wrong and come looking for her. Meanwhile, Alicia clung to that hope, remembering every moment of love and care she had shared with Valentina. She knew her daughter wouldn't abandon her and that somehow she would find a way to rescue her from this dark place. Alicia sat in her small room at the nursing home, staring out the window at the few flowers in the garden, withered from neglect. The days passed slowly, each one heavier than the last, filled with an overwhelming monotony. However, inside her, hope remained alive, however faint. Each night, she went to bed with the firm conviction that something would change, that her daughter Valentina would discover the truth and come to her rescue. One morning, while she was in the common room, she noticed a young man she hadn't seen before. He had a kind expression and a calming presence. He moved with a calmness and attentiveness that contrasted sharply with the usual nursing home staff. When he approached her, Alicia looked up and met his eyes, filled with empathy. "Good morning, I'm Antonio, one of the new nurses here," he introduced himself with a warm smile. "How are you feeling today?" Alicia, surprised by the kindness in his voice, replied cautiously, "Good morning, Antonio. I'm fine, thank you." Antonio sat down beside her, noticing the guarded look in her eyes. "Is there anything in particular that's bothering you? I'm here to help in any way I can." The temptation to tell him everything that was happening was great, but Alicia feared it would be in vain. However, desperation overcame her caution. "Antonio, I need to talk to someone I can trust," she said softly, almost in a whisper. "There's something very important I need to tell." Antonio nodded, sensing the urgency in her voice. "Of course. Let's talk somewhere more private," he suggested, leading her to a small consultation room. Once inside, he closed the door gently and sat down opposite her. "Now tell me what's going on." Alicia took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "My sons, Mario and Marco, have brought me here under false pretenses. I don't have Alzheimer's. They've been drugging me to keep me sedated so they can keep my pension." Antonio frowned, taken aback by the seriousness of the accusation. "Do you have any proof of this? Have you tried to contact anyone?" Alicia nodded, tears of frustration welling up in her eyes. "I've tried everything, but they've cut off all my means of communication. My only hope is my adopted daughter, Valentina. She lives in Asia and doesn't know what's going on." Antonio took a moment to process what he was hearing. "I understand. Let me see what I can do. We need to be very careful not to alert your sons. Do you have Valentina's contact number?" Alicia shook her head. "I don't have it with me, but she always calls me through her brothers. I don't know how to find her." Antonio thought for a moment. "I'll do some research and see if I can get her contact information. In the meantime, stay strong. You're not alone in this." With that promise, Alicia felt a glimmer of hope. Over the next few days, Antonio worked discreetly to find Valentina's contact information. He used all the tools at his disposal, finally finding an email address associated with her work in Asia. One afternoon, while Alicia was resting in her room, Antonio entered with a serious but determined expression. "I've found a way to contact Valentina," he told her softly. "I've sent her an email explaining the situation and leaving her my number. I hope she responds soon." Alicia felt an immense sense of relief, thanking Antonio with a lump in her throat. "I don't know how to thank you, Antonio. You're my guardian angel." A few days later, Antonio's phone rang with an international call. It was Valentina, her voice filled with concern and urgency. "Antonio, it's Valentina. I received your email. Is it true what you said about my mother?" Antonio confirmed calmly. "Yes, Valentina. The situation is serious. Your mother needs your help urgently. You must come as soon as possible." Valentina didn't hesitate. "I'm taking the first flight available. I'll be there as soon as I can." The day Valentina arrived was a whirlwind of emotions. Upon arriving at the nursing home, she ran to her mother's room, where Alicia awaited her anxiously. When Valentina entered, they both looked at each other for a moment, time seeming to stand still. Then, they embraced tightly, tears flowing freely. "Mom, I'm so sorry for not being here," Valentina sobbed. "I'm going to get you out of this place, I promise." Alicia, touched and filled with relief, stroked her daughter's hair. "Valentina, I knew you would come. I knew you wouldn't abandon me." With Antonio's help, Valentina began the necessary procedures to get her mother out of the nursing home. She also contacted the authorities to report Mario and Marco, ensuring they would face the consequences of their actions. The following days were intense, filled with legal proceedings and reorganizing their lives. But finally, Alicia was released from the nursing home and taken to a safe place. Valentina, with unwavering determination, vowed to take care of her mother and never let anything like this happen again. Valentina, with her mother Alicia safe and sound, realized that the battle was just beginning. She knew that Mario and Marco would stop at nothing to maintain control over their mother's inheritance and pension. With renewed determination, she decided it was time to confront them directly and expose their actions to the world. Valentina spent the next few weeks meticulously preparing her plan. She knew she needed irrefutable evidence to ensure that Mario and Marco faced the legal consequences of their actions. She contacted a tech-savvy friend, and together they devised a strategy to record and live stream her brother's confessions. One evening, Valentina sat down at her computer and began writing a message to Mario and Marco. She knew it had to be convincing enough for them to agree to see her without suspecting anything. "Dear brothers," she wrote, "I know things have been difficult lately. I'd like to talk to you and find a peaceful resolution. Please, can we meet at home tomorrow afternoon?" The next day, Valentina arrived at her old family home, where Mario and Marco were waiting for her. The tension in the air was palpable, but Valentina remained calm. She discreetly placed a small camera in her purse and activated it before entering. Mario greeted her with a forced smile. "Valentina, it's good to see you," he said, though his tone betrayed his discomfort. "Thank you, Mario," Valentina replied, keeping her voice steady. "We need to talk about Mom and how we can handle this situation fairly." Marco, seated on the sofa, crossed his arms dismissively. "Fairly?" he retorted. "There's nothing fair about any of this. Mom needs to be in a place where she can be properly cared for. We can't do that." Valentina took a deep breath, trying not to lose her composure. "I know there are many differences between us, but this isn't just about Mom. It's about what's right." Mario, trying to remain calm, interjected, "Valentina, I understand your concern, but we've already made a decision. Mom is better off at the nursing home. We can't change that." "Better off?" Valentina felt anger start to simmer inside her. "You drugged her and isolated her. You treated her like she was a burden. How can you justify that?" Marco stood up abruptly. "You don't understand anything. You weren't here. We've been taking care of everything while you were in Asia." "And for a good reason," Valentina retorted, her voice rising. "I left because I trusted you to take care of Mom. I never imagined you would do something so cruel." Mario, losing his patience, exploded. "Yes, we drugged her. So what? She was unbearable. We couldn't go on like that. It's better that she disappears and leaves us alone." Valentina felt a chill run down her spine. She knew she had what she needed. "Thank you, Mario," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for confirming what I already knew." Before Mario and Marco could react, Valentina took out her phone and stopped the live stream. "All of this has been recorded and broadcast live. The police are on their way." Surprise and panic were etched on her brothers' faces. "You can't do this!" Marco shouted, advancing towards her furiously. "Yes, I can, and I did," Valentina replied firmly. "It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." Within minutes, police sirens could be heard approaching. The officers entered the house and, after reviewing the evidence presented by Valentina, arrested Mario and Marco for elder abuse and neglect, among other charges. Valentina watched as they were led away in handcuffs, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. Although justice had been served, the toll it had taken on the family was high. With Mario and Marco in custody, Valentina focused on rebuilding her life with her mother. Alicia, free from the nursing home and under the loving care of her daughter, began to recover both physically and emotionally. The house, once a place of pain and conflict, transformed into a home of love and hope. Days passed slowly, but each one brought with it a ray of light. Antonio, the nurse who had been instrumental in Alicia's rescue, visited regularly to ensure her recovery was progressing smoothly. His presence had become a constant source of support and comfort to both of them. One afternoon, while Alicia rested in her room, Valentina and Antonio sat in the kitchen to discuss the long-term care plan. Valentina looked at Antonio with gratitude in her eyes. "Antonio, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us. Without your help, I don't know what would have become of my mother." Antonio smiled modestly. "Valentina, I only did what any decent person would do. Your mother is a strong woman, and so are you. I'm glad I was able to help." Valentina felt it was time to do something special to show their appreciation. "Antonio, Mom and I have been thinking of a way to thank you. We want to do something more than just words." Antonio raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Valentina took a deep breath. "We want to buy you a new apartment. We know you live in a rented place, and that taking care of your little daughter isn't easy. It's the least we can do for all you've done for us." Antonio fell silent, clearly taken aback by the offer. "Valentina, that's too much. I can't accept something like that." Valentina shook her head, determined. "It's not too much. It's a small gesture compared to what you've done for us. Please, let us do this." Antonio, still overwhelmed by Valentina's generosity, nodded slowly. "I don't know what to say. I'm deeply grateful." With the decision made, Valentina and Alicia began to plan the surprise. They searched for the perfect apartment, one that was not only comfortable and safe, but also offered a warm environment for Antonio and his daughter. After weeks of searching, they found the ideal place, a spacious and bright apartment with a beautiful view of the city. The day came to hand over the keys, and Valentina invited Antonio to dinner at their house, using a pretext to keep the surprise. Antonio arrived on time, unaware of what awaited him. After dinner, Valentina asked him to accompany her to a special place. "Where are we going?" Antonio asked as they walked towards the car. "It's a surprise," Valentina replied with an enigmatic smile. Upon reaching the apartment building, Valentina led Antonio to the door of his new home. "Antonio, this is your new apartment," she said, handing him the keys. "Thank you for everything you've done." Antonio looked at the keys in his hand, then at the apartment, and finally at Valentina. "This is incredible. I can't believe it. Thank you, really." Valentina smiled, feeling satisfied to see the joy in Antonio's eyes. "You deserve it. You've been an angel to us." Antonio opened the door, and together they entered the apartment. The evening light filled the space with a golden glow, creating a welcoming atmosphere. Antonio walked through each room, marveling at every detail. "My daughter is going to be so happy here," he said emotionally. Antonio and his daughter's move to the new apartment was quick and smooth. Within a few days, they were fully settled, transforming the space into a true home. Valentina and Alicia visited frequently, further strengthening the bonds that they had formed. Over time, Alicia and Valentina's life began to find a calm and stable rhythm. Alicia, under the loving care of her daughter and the continued support of Antonio, regained her health and spirit. The house was filled with laughter and shared moments, something they had both feared losing forever. One afternoon, while Valentina and Alicia were enjoying coffee in the garden, Alicia took her daughter's hand. "Valentina, you've done so much for me. I don't know how to thank you." Valentina gently squeezed her mother's hand. "Mum, I did what I did because I love you. You're my mother, and I'll always be here for you." Alicia smiled, her eyes filled with love and gratitude. "And I'll always be here for you, my dear Valentina." Life, though marked by scars, had found a new path. A path built on truth, justice, and above all, the unwavering love between a mother and her daughter. Antonio, the guardian angel, who had appeared at just the right moment, became a close friend and constant support for both of them. With life slowly returning to normal, Valentina made an important decision. She decided not to return to Asia and instead stay to take care of her mother. The flexibility of her work allowed her to work remotely, so she transferred her responsibilities to her home. "Valentina, are you sure this is what you want?" Alicia asked one afternoon as they had tea in the garden. "Your work in Asia was very important." "Mom," Valentina replied, taking Alicia's hand, "my priority now is you. We can handle this together. Besides, there's something else I've been thinking about." "What is it, my dear?" "I've been thinking about starting a small business here at home. Something to keep us busy and bring some joy into our daily lives. We could sell handicrafts and souvenirs. It would be a way to stay active and connected with the community." Alicia smiled, feeling a spark of excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. "That sounds like a wonderful idea, Valentina. It would be nice to have something to keep us busy and also meet new people." With that decision made, mother and daughter got to work. They started by clearing a space in the house that they would use as a shop. Antonio, always willing to help, joined them on weekends to paint and fix up the place. Within a matter of weeks, the space had been transformed into a cozy shop, filled with light and warmth. On opening day, Alicia and Valentina were nervous but excited. They had worked hard to create a variety of products, from handmade jewelry to decorative items and personalized souvenirs. The community, which had followed their story with interest, turned out in large numbers to support their new venture. "Welcome," Valentina said with a broad smile as the first customers entered. "Thank you for coming to our grand opening." The shop quickly filled with neighbors and friends, all eager to show their support. Alicia, behind the counter, felt more alive than ever, chatting with customers and helping them choose their purchases. She felt that finally she was reclaiming her place in life, surrounded by love and support. The shop, which initially began as a small project, soon became a popular meeting point in the community. Alicia and Valentina's warmth and hospitality attracted many regular customers, and their unique products became known throughout the city. As demand increased, mother and daughter realized they needed additional help. They decided to hire some young people from the community, providing them with jobs and teaching them craft skills. The shop not only became a thriving business, but also a center of learning and growth for many. One afternoon, as they closed up shop, Alicia turned to Valentina with a satisfied smile. "Remember when we started all this? I had no idea it would get this big." "Yes, Mom," Valentina replied, looking around the shop with pride. "It's been an incredible journey, and best of all, we've done it together." On weekends, the shop hosted workshops and community events where people could learn new skills and connect with others. Antonio, whose bond with Alicia and Valentina had grown stronger over time, often attended these events, helping out and participating with enthusiasm. The shop's success also attracted the attention of local media, who wanted to share Alicia and Valentina's inspiring story. A reporter visited the shop one day to interview them. "Mrs. Alicia, Miss Valentina," the reporter began, "your story has touched many in our community. What does all this support mean to you?" Alicia, her eyes shining with emotion, replied, "It means everything to us. After all we've been through, finding this connection and support in our community has been an incredible gift. It has given us strength and purpose." Valentina added, "This is not just a shop for us. It's a symbol of resilience and hope. We want to continue to grow and help our community in any way we can." The interview was published in the local newspaper, attracting even more attention and customers to the shop. Valentina and Alicia received letters and messages from people inspired by their story, motivating them to move forward with their mission. The publication of the interview in the local newspaper not only brought more attention and customers to Alicia and Valentina's shop, but also touched hearts in unexpected places. In the prison where Mario and Marco were serving their sentence, the news arrived through a copy of the newspaper that someone had left in the common room. Mario, his face grim, picked up the newspaper and began to read. The article detailed the journey of his mother and sister and how they had rebuilt their lives despite everything that had happened. As Mario read, a wave of guilt and remorse washed over him. He remembered the times when his mother had always been there for them, sacrificing herself without hesitation. He looked at his brother Marco, who was sitting in a corner, lost in his own thoughts. "Marco," Mario called softly. Marco looked up with an expression of weariness and sadness. "Look at this," Mario said, handing him the newspaper. Marco took the newspaper and began to read. With each line, his eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe everything we put them through," he murmured. "Our own mother and sister." Mario nodded, feeling the weight of his actions more than ever. "We have to do something, Marco. We can't change the past, but at least we can try to make amends." During the following days, Mario and Marco talked at length about how they could redeem themselves. Finally, they decided to write a letter to their mother and Valentina, asking for forgiveness for all the pain they had caused. Although they knew their actions had been unforgivable, they wanted to show that they were truly sorry. Mario, being the older brother, took it upon himself to write the letter. He sat down at the small table in his cell, with a pencil and blank paper in front of him, and began to write. "Dear Mom and Valentina, I hope this letter finds you well. There are not enough words to express how sorry we are for all the pain we have caused you. We recognize that our actions were cruel and unjustifiable. We have spent these months in prison reflecting on our mistakes and realize how much we have failed you. Mom, there is no excuse for what we did to you. We treated you in a way that no child should treat their mother. We can only ask for your forgiveness from the bottom of our hearts. Valentina, I deeply regret having pushed you away and having behaved so selfishly. You were an exemplary daughter and sister, and you did not deserve the treatment you received from us. We know that words cannot undo the damage, but we hope that one day you will be able to forgive us. We are willing to accept any consequences and are committed to being better people. With love and regret, Mario and Marco." Mario read the letter aloud to Marco before sending it. Both brothers felt a little relieved to have expressed their regret, but they also knew that the road to redemption would be long. Weeks later, Alicia and Valentina received the letter. Valentina opened it with trembling hands and read it aloud to her mother. Alicia, with tears in her eyes, listened to every word. The letter touched her heart deeply. "Mum, what do you think?" Valentina asked, observing her mother's reaction. Alicia remained silent for a moment, processing everything. Finally, she spoke in a soft but firm voice. "They are my sons, Valentina. Although they hurt me, I can't help but love them. I feel I must forgive them, not just for them, but for me too. I need to release this weight from my heart." Valentina nodded, understanding her mother's desire to find peace. "If that's what you feel, Mum, I'll support you all the way." Alicia decided to write a letter in response. She sat at her desk, picked up pen and paper, and with tears in her eyes began to write. "My dear Mario and Marco, I received your letter and I want you to know that I read it with an open heart. Despite everything that happened, you are still my children and I will always love you. The path you chose was painful, but I am willing to forgive you. Forgiveness is the first step towards healing, and I believe we all need healing. I have spoken to my lawyer to request a reduction in your sentences. I hope you can come out soon, and that this experience has taught you the value of family and respect. With love and hope, Mom. Alicia sent the letter and, true to her word, worked with her lawyer to request a reduction in Mario and Marco's sentences. The authorities, considering the genuine remorse and Alicia's support, agreed to review the case. Months later, Mario and Marco were released under certain conditions. They returned home filled with gratitude and determined to make amends for their mistakes. The first night back home was emotional. Alicia welcomed them with open arms, and Valentina, though cautious, welcomed them with the hope that they had truly changed. Alicia and Valentina's life had taken a complete turn. With Mario and Marco back, the family began to rebuild itself. The wounds were still present, but with time, patience, and love, they began to heal. The shop continued to thrive, and now, with the support of Mario and Marco, it became an even stronger business. Sitting together at the dining room table, the family shared a dinner filled with laughter and memories, a scene that Alicia had dreamed of for so long. Reconciliation was not easy, but Alicia and Valentina's determination to keep the family together had prevailed. The journey of Alicia, Valentina, Mario, and Marco in this story is a poignant testament to resilience, love, and the power of forgiveness. Alicia, a devoted mother, faces unimaginable betrayal from her own sons, Mario and Marco, who, blinded by greed, attempt to dispose of her. Alicia's strength shines as she, with the help of Valentina and Antonio, breaks free from her plight and rebuilds her life. Valentina, the adopted daughter, demonstrates unconditional love and unwavering determination as she returns from Asia to care for her mother. Her bravery and decisive action are pivotal in dismantling the injustice and ensuring that justice is served. Mario and Marco's evolution from wickedness to repentance is a powerful reflection of the impact of second chances and the human desire for redemption. The story teaches us that, while life may be marked by deep scars, love and forgiveness are forces that can heal the deepest wounds. It reminds us of the importance of family, compassion, and the ability to find light in darkness. This tale is not only inspiring, but also reaffirms the belief in goodness and the possibility of redemption. If you found the characters' journeys inspiring, like and comment to share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories highlighting the power of connection and human kindness. Thanks for watching.